Hello everyone. Today we're going to touch on the Linux command line and Linux commands. Something that everyone needs to know. Excuse me. It doesn't matter if you are just wanting your Raspberry Pi for retro gaming, or if you want to dual boot, triple boot, whatever. In order for you to work and maintain your Raspberry Pi, you need to learn the command line. And that's what we're going to do today. Let's see. So, to get started, as you can see, we still have our script working beautifully. But we're not going to be working in IRB right now. There we go. Clear. Okay. So when you first boot up your Pi, you see a command line. You see all the information here. But all in all, this right here, this window, is the same thing that you get when your Pi first boots. Let me get a clean window. Gotta love being CDO and dyslexic. Or is it dyslexic? Either way. Exit. So, what are the command lines that we need to know? Well, for starters, if you have a dual boot machine, if you have Raspbian or Ubuntu or another desktop operating system on it with your RetroPie, then both of them work on the X server, which means you can't run two operating systems that runs on the X server. Not like that. It's kind of weird. You can, but we're not going to get into all of that, and it's kind of difficult, and you got to manually set up the next session and all. We're not going to get into all that. But if you have a dual boot machine, if you have Raspbian, RetroPie like I do, then you can have it set to where you have your primary operating system, whether it be Raspbian or RetroPie, which you can boot your Pi into directly right into one, and then you can log out and it'll still bring you to the command prompt. In order to load and switch between your operating systems, you need to know the commands. For Raspbian or any other Linux desktop, it's very easy. It's start X, and it boots right up. I'm not going to do it because I'll open up another one on top of it, and and it messes with X authorities. Pain in the butt. The next one for RetroPie is emulation station. All one word. That will boot RetroPie. And if you got Kodi, all you got to do is type in Kodi, and it'll boot into Kodi. Those are the three biggies that you need to remember. Other commands that is a must to know is how to update your Pi, not only the operating systems that you're running, but the Pi's firmware. To update your Pi, you type in sudo apt-get update, and then you have to also upgrade. So you can do that, let it run, and then after it gets done, come back and do upgrade, and it'll do it again. Or you can go update and with 2 ampersands upgrade. And if you hit enter, it'll run through, it will update and upgrade all the packages. Sudo stands for super user do. Pretty easy. That's in Windows. That would be your system administrator. That would be your admin, your main account. Like your regular users on Linux, that would be your guest account and your normal accounts. They can't really change settings in the system. You have to have administrative access for that. That's what the super user is in Linux. Regular users are just like your regular users in Windows. Let's see, what else? That's all I can think of at the top of my head. Another one is to enter Raspberry config sudo rasb config. Very easy. A lot of your commands will require the sudo, but it depends on what you're doing. Now, we touched base a little bit on this, changing directories. To list what's in your directory, type in ls and hit enter. As you can see, we have Chufi, documents, music, pictures, Python games, RetroPie setup, which we'll touch here in a minute. Rubian, one of my projects I'm working on. Now let's see. RetroPie setup. Let's change the directory to RetroPie setup. cd RetroPie setup. As you can see, we're now in there. If we type in ls again, come on, there we go. Type it again, we can now see what is in the RetroPie setup folder. Folder and directory are the same thing. Let's see. And here we have RetroPie setup.sh. So if we're in the terminal or if we're in Linux, in Raspbian or Ubuntu, and we needed to change something in RetroPie, and we can't really shut down, restart, and log in to access the setup, we can come into this file, come into this folder, again, sorry, Listexia, and type in sudo /retropie setup.sh, and we'll go ahead and hit enter just to show you. And it pulls it right up. Exit out of that. So these are basic functions and the commands on how to interact with your command line. There are many others that can be used and utilized. Let's go ahead and look into that. If you do a search, let's see. Debian, however you want to pronounce it, commands. And here we go, shell commands. We can look into this because Raspbian is built off of Debian. And it will give you the full list here on the site of all of the commands that you can use and how to use them and what they do, like chmod, change access permissions, date, check display or change date and time, desk calculator, data dump, convert, copy a file, echo, display a message on screen, just like what we did in Ruby with puts, and we'll go into that in a little bit later in the next tutorial. But definitely go through here, look at all these commands, and try to get acquainted with them. Don't try to use all of them. Definitely don't try to change configuration files and stuff like that. But acquaint yourself with the commands. Acquaint yourself with the command lines, because this is going to come in very handy in the next tutorial. And I will catch y'all in a little bit.